what's the first step that people need to take if they think there is some physical or cognitive decline and mum and or dad might need some help? Do you go to a GP and start the ACAT assessment? Do you have to call human services or whatever they're called?
That you can contact My Aged Care directly,
right,
and organise that assessment, and that should be the first point of contact. Because even if it's not, as you said before, a residential care thing, moving into a home, that might get them some extra support. And we won't get anywhere near it today, but the changes to the home care rules, I think, are really positive.
Great,
and it's going to really open up some support for people to stay home longer, and people who are home longer are happier. So that's the absolute first step. And then working with their GP if there's some cognitive issues, or what usually happens is mum's in hospital, they won't let her go home. She had a fall, it's unsafe. She broke her hip, she's got dementia, whatever it is, people leave it too late.
Yeah.
And that's more common. They maybe people try. Quite often they'll come in, they'll speak to me that we're thinking we want to plan ahead, we want to do something, and there's resistance, and there's good reason. It's a loss of independence, and it's challenging for someone to think about that. But I think at the very least that can be a way in. Mum, let's get you a bit of help around the house. Let's get you a little bit of support. We can't always come over and do this, even though you like us to come over and do it because it's a reason for us to come and see you. That's probably the best first step, I'd say.
Yeah. So let's move now to the basic how the world works. And so what you're saying is conceptually the concepts won't change post 1st of November, but the amounts and
some of the names will change.
Right.
But the way I'll walk you through this, the model will be the same.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So I will hand it to you to go to this first slide, and if you can just describe each pillar for those just listening only.
So the first thing that people know about is the accommodation. So that's when you hear the RAD, the DAP, people used to call it a bond. This is paying for the roof over someone's head. And so this is usually a lump sum of money. It's quoted, it might be $550,000 or now up to $770,000 will become more common because of the changes. And often people panic and they go, I don't have that kind of money. Mum and dad don't have that kind of money. If you don't have the money to pay the lump sum, it is charged at an interest amount, a daily interest, which is called a DAP. And we're already getting complex, but this is for people who are full fee paying.
Which is the daily interest payment.
Yeah, daily accommodation
payment.
Yeah, correct, yeah. And that interest rate is set by the government. It's mandated. It's not low. It's 7.78, I think, right now. And it is 100% refundable under the current rules. So that's the accommodation component for full fee paying people when they go in.
I thought there was, and tell me to shut up, but I thought there was a thing where they could withhold up to an amount.
That's the new rules.
Okay, all right, I'll shut up. Okay, now we've got these fees, because you've got 4 pillars on the screen, and there is care and living expenses. What are these 2 pillars?
Yeah, so the care and living is kind of blended between what we call the basic daily fee. Everyone pays it. You got someone with $1 billion going into aged care, if they went into normal residential care, they would still pay this amount. It's calculated at 85% of a single person's pension, so it indexes. So whenever someone's like, got a pay rise today because my pension went up, so did your basic daily fee. And that's a standard. It's about $60-something a day, $63-ish a day. And then for the means tested fee is the other one. And this is what they calculate based off how much money you have. This fee is variable. And it's probably going to be a big theme of today's discussion. That's changing in nature in November. We'll come.
This means tested fee here?
It's going to be called the non-clinical care contribution because that's nice and easy to say.
Oh, yeah, and remember.
NCCCCCCCC.
Yeah.
It will effectively be the same.
Yeah.
So conceptually, they're the 2 aspects that kind of cover care and living expenses in the home. And these 3 are all very standard fees.
Okay, so just on these 3 here, the accommodation payment, that can vary between facilities. Correct. Because you might have one in a luxury area with ocean views and all this wonderful grounds and all that stuff. So the RAD could be $1 million at that facility, but the one in the back streets where we all grew up, Nan's nursing home, that could be $450,000.
Correct.
However, both residents would pay this $70 a day or the basic daily fee.
They'll both pay a basic daily fee, and then depending on their means, the means tested fee.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the basic daily fee, is that changing?
That is fixed.
In November, sorry.
No, that stays the same as well. It is not changing at all.
But the means tested fee will change.
The rules around it will change.
And then also with the accommodation payment, the RAD, going forward, there will be a withheld amount.
There's going to be a retained amount.
And then the rest will go to the estate.
And there's going to be an indexation being applied to unpaid aspects.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a couple of things happening there, but it will still be called the RAD. And that's one of the things that's scaring people. It's 2% a year, up to 5 years. They say it's 10%. It's not quite, because it's not how it accumulates. Works out about 9.61 for the maths nerds. But they will retain a portion of the RAD.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then the fourth kind of fee is the additional services fee.
Yeah.
Now, talk to us about this one.
So this fee has been kind of problematic, not in really badly, but a lot of the times when you enter a facility, they'll say, are you going to join this additional services fee? And you have to decide. And sometimes whether you get offered a place is whether or not you accept it. And it makes sense to a point, because it's covering things like it might cover better food. Maggie Beard did a great episode on this years ago about how she went into a facility and worked on their food and, improved it all. And they got to the end and they were like, oh, this is great. She's like, you roll it out. And he's like, well, we only have 70 cents a day to feed people. So no. And it was going to be $1.50. So that's what most of the time this goes to better food. Commonly it's about $10 a day. I've seen as low as nothing. I've seen up to $150.
So the additional services fee, that's in every facility?
No, it's based on the facility that they go into. And
because the slide before, see that at the top that says not included in these costs are medication, allied health services, haircut and outings. Some facilities, correct me if I'm wrong, the additional service fee may include a haircut.
May include it.
And this is where it goes back to that if you're on the Vaucluse clifftop view facility, that the RAD is $1 million, you might be paying $100 a day because they do a yoga session for some of the people who are there. I don't know. Or
I'm working with a family at the moment.
A barber or a hairdresser and all the stuff.
Yeah, or it might be subsidised cost. Yeah. I'm working with a family at the moment. The room rate for shared room, both parents in, at $2.6 million. And it's $138 a day each in additional services.
Now, would there be some places where it's compulsory?
This has been the problem.
Right. And that's probably where the gouging could happen.
Yeah, and I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the facilities and say, how do you offer a scalable service package to everyone unless everyone takes it? But what this change is going to be quite drastic in the new model. Even for residents that are already there, that actually won't get grandfathered. They'll all move to the new thing. This is actually going to be something where it gets signed onto after you've joined, after you've entered, so it has no bearing on your entry. And it's package-based. So residents will be able to opt into what they use and opt out of what they don't.
So, example, I'm just doing some rough numbers here. With the basic daily fee, which is 85% of the pension, if it was a single person, that would be $22,500 a year, which leaves $4,500 a year or $86 a week.
Yep.
If someone didn't have any other assets and they put all their assets into the RAD, this $86, they can either keep it.
So if they had no other assets, it depends on how much assets they put against the RAD, and that's ignoring that. Yeah, sorry.
So, but are we saying because the additional service fees, it might not be compulsory? Like if mum or dad needs a haircut and they're in that facility and they have to pay for that, is that the thing behind that is, well, that extra $4,500 a year that is not garnished by the basic daily fee, is that their money to buy clothes and stuff like that?
And it doesn't go very far.
No.
No. And that's a big consideration in those areas where you've got certain facilities just may not be suitable.
Yeah.
Which that the new changes, the higher living fee, I think they're changing it. HELF is the acronym. That's the optional nature of that is going to take some pressure off a lot of families, I think, with the new changes.
Right.
And the new changes will introduce another fee called a hoteling contribution, which is it works in the rest of them. No point getting into that now.
Yeah. So on this slide, as at today, the means tested fee, how do they check that?
So they're going to look at everything you've got in the bank. It works very similar to Centrelink.
Right.
So if anyone's familiar with Centrelink rules, it works very similar. But the means tested fee has a couple of differences. So any money in the RAD or paid onto the RAD is ignored for Centrelink purposes.
Right.
And if you're an aged care, you're considered...
Well, but that's because it's a house, basically.
Yeah, and you're considered a non-homeowner.
Right.
Yeah, or separated by illness, so you'll get a higher rate of pension. So if there is a couple, you mentioned that before, and one goes in, they actually get an increase to their base pension rate. But the means tested fee does count what's in the RAD.
Right.
So it adds that in.
Right. Okay.
But then if you've still got a house, let's say the house is mum's moving into care and she's got a $3 million house, they only count that as being worth the $206-ish thousand, which is the home exemption cap.
And that's what I used to tell people. Like if mum or dad has a fall or something happens, stroke, and like an overnight situation, right? Because often cognitive decline creeps in. But if it's an overnight event, when people used to come and like freak out, mum or dad, we've got to put them in a home or they can't go home, don't just think you got to sell the house, because it might be financially better off for their finances and therefore the estate to keep the house, put a tenant in there, receive rent, and do the razzle dazzle with the numbers and paying interest to the facility as opposed to putting the capital in. So I used to tell people, don't just instantly think we have to sell the house. Get some advice first. All that to say, on the 1st of November, is that strategy out the window?
It's largely the same.
Right.
So this idea of, I used to hate hearing it. Just sell the house.
Because the
just
rent,
sell the house.
Yeah, because the rent received is not deemed, is it?
It is.
It is?
It's not deemed. It is accessible.
It is accessible, but not deemed.
But the house is not.
Yes.
So the house, if you rent the house out, and this is part of the case study too, if you rent the house out, they still assess the value of the house at $206,000.
Yes.
Even if it's 3.5.
Because I did strategies where it was financially better off to keep the house, put a tenant in there, pay the interest payment each day because there was no RAD, and it was all good.
The downside in these days is that the daily payment is calculated on 7.78%.
Right.
It's not a small amount. If rent comes in, you lose some pension.
Yes.
You got
but that just speaks to
the
things
complexity.
change over time.
Yeah.
This is complex.
But rushing to sell the house
Don't do
and
that.
getting just whatever you can get for it right now, the system is built in such a way that you don't have to rush, but you may have to sell at some point.
Yeah, and the thing is, and we will get to it, that a lot of these facilities, if you had to move mum and or dad in, you'll have breathing space to pay the RAD. Like they're not going to turn people away, and if you work close with the finance officer at the facility, they're really good. Like
big tip: do what you say you're going to do, and most facilities will work with you.
Yes.
If you say we're going to put the house on the market, and that's all mum and dad have. Is it okay if we rack up some interest and some unpaid invoices, and in 3 months they look on realestate.com.au and the house is still not listed? They're within their rights to be pretty upset with you.
Yeah.
So often they'll put caveats on properties and stuff too, but they're generally pretty good.
Yes.
And they don't have to be.
No.
But they are.
Yeah, because I remember dealing with a client. There was it took a while to sell the house, and I was literally talking with the facility, like, hey, it's for sale. Like they were totally good. And they're like, yeah, we get it. We know it's happening and there's a bit of grace. And that's like if you owe people money, for example, if you communicate on a human level, it's a lot better than ignoring it.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at some broader considerations. Then we'll have a break. Then we'll look at a case study. What do you want people to know with this?
I think the first thing to think about when mum and dad are gone into care and you're wondering what to do, how we pay the fees. The first thing, because this gets missed all the time, is actually make sure Centrelink knows what's going on. So if you don't update Centrelink, you'll get a letter. And this letter is scary. Because this letter says, hey, we don't know the situation, so we're going to start charging you the maximum daily rate, which is just over $400 a day, just in the means tested fee, on top of the other fees. And often there's no means tested fee for this person, but that's because Centrelink don't know. And so a quick one on that, if your parent has no home right now, they don't own a house, updating Centrelink is logging in if you're their nominee or getting them to update Centrelink their normal way. Trigger an update once they've gone into care, almost immediately when they go into care. It should be within, I think it's 18 months beforehand, but just do it straight away. Even if the balances are the same, give or take $1, that will trigger something in the back end. And then when they enter care, Services Australia is notified and they marry everything up.
Yeah, cool.
Most of the time. If they own a house, you've got to lodge a specific form which tells Centrelink about the house. Ask questions like what's it made out of and what's it worth and all that kind of stuff. If they're not on Centrelink at all, you can lodge a form that says this is their financial situation, or there's a box in that says we don't want to disclose it, just charge us the maximum fee, or you just don't disclose it and they'll charge you the maximum fee. There's kind of the range of options, but I think for most people, getting Centrelink on board earlier means that what happens is Centrelink tell the facility what to charge you. So if you go to the facility and they're like, we're charging you $300 a day in means tested fees, and you're like, mum's got 20 grand in the bank, why? They actually can't change that. They have to charge what Services Australia
Tell them.
Yes. Through Medicare.
Yes.
So you have to update Services Australia in order for them to fix it. And that's a big, they deal with a lot of flack from people for something they have no control over.
You talk about here loaning personal money to them is risky. So what are we talking about there?
So if we tie in the idea of mum's gone into care now, and we're looking at this and sort of the question, mum and dad are going to care, or mum's gone into care and she's got 20 grand in the bank, got this $500,000 RAD. What if I just lend her the money and then get it back once we sell the house? This is what we're talking about.
Right.
So that loan is on face value for the right reasons.
Yes.
It's in their best interest. But the relationship dynamics is what challenges this. So firstly, is mum able to make decisions? Can she enter a loan agreement? Is she cognitive enough? Can she understand it? Brings that question into it. Then is she actually able to act on her own behalf? She might be physically fine, but cognitively not. And then if you're the power of attorney, now you're acting as her in an agreement with yourself. This just starts bringing in all of these potential issues. And then if we add in, you've got siblings, maybe there's a black sheep in the family, you just start compounding issues. And then there's the actual aspects of it. Can this person even enter a loan arrangement under the structure of the power of attorney?
But
all that kind of fun stuff.
Generally speaking, if you've got a plan in place, there shouldn't necessarily need to be a loan to the parent going into the facility.
If they've got the assets to pay the fees, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, well, there's a $500,000 RAD, for example. We know that the house is on the market. It's having trouble to sell. If the facility, if you work with the facility, they're not going to be stop feeding mum or dad if they know that it's in play. Like, I don't think the son or the daughter would have to go, well, look, we'll just pay the RAD now and we'll recoup that money later.
Yeah, it's if you're...
Because, and just let me ask a question, because in theory, if 500 grand was loaned to them, on paper, that becomes, for Centrelink purposes, it nets out because it's a debt. But if they then paid that 500 back, does that trigger a gift or is it a loan repayment and not a gift?
What does the evidence say? So there's two parts to that Centrelink piece, which is the curly-whirly part of all of this. So firstly, you just gave them $500,000. How does Centrelink know that that's a loan?
Yes.
How do they know that there's consideration for that? Straight away, that's why you would document it. Because otherwise you've just given them money. And then you've just taken the money away.
Yeah, it's a gift. Yeah.
Or it's you just taking money out of their account as their power of attorney. You know, like this is yes, it could be for the right intentions, but this, when it comes to matters of powers of attorney and acting on behalf of parents and loved ones, this is where the challenges come in. Secondly, once money's paid on the RAD, you can't take it off.
Yes.
And
That's burned in until they leave the facility or end of the life.
yeah, and if you lend them the money and it goes onto the RAD, the loan doesn't get considered.
Right.
So they actually end up with more money.
So, yeah, don't dick around with this stuff without advice, basically.
Yeah, loaning money is tricky. People might pay a little bit of it. Maybe there's some pressure from the facility. It's been a while.
Yeah, can
maybe
you kick the
feel
tin with 50
pressure.
grand or something? Yeah.
Yeah, and smaller amounts with good record keeping. But this is the curly stuff that it usually comes back to. Hey, we don't want to sell the house. We want to keep it in the family. And then it comes back to that question of who is this for? Are you trying to keep the house for the family? Are you trying to keep it in because you want to inherit it? That's where this starts becoming problematic. Yeah, even if it's in the best intentions, even if it's what mum would have wanted.
Yes. And yeah, it's crazy. Look, let's take a break unless there's any other important considerations.
I think we'll explore those as we do the case study.
Sweet. We'll be back right after this. Hey, it's Glenn here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.